Hey, Matt, we went from the turf last week to the dirt this week. Another big show here on Horse Center.
It sure is. From the turf to the surf to the Pacific Classic, where Accelerate and Pavel meet up, and in the Alabama at Saratoga, it's Midnight Bassoon and Talk Veuve to Me.
Matt says one favorite goes down in one big race. I'd say another favorite goes down in the other big race. We got Robert Bruce, Sister Charlie. Watch it now, all on Horse Center. Welcome to another edition of Horse Center, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm great, Brian. How are you down in Kentucky?
Doing well. A little damp here in the Bluegrass State, but other than that, Matt, no worries. Hey, we had a big weekend of turf racing. Let's jump right into last week's races before we preview this week's big races. Matt, let's start at Arlington Park for the big one, the biggest of all, the Arlington Million. Oscar Performance as a slight favorite. Matt threw in a clunker. Didn't look good from the outset from that outside gate, so it became a race all about Mr. Chad Brown.
It sure did, Brian. I hear Chad Brown's going to run for mayor of Chicago at this point because he won everything else out there last weekend. But yeah, for sure, Brian. Chad has become just an unbelievable force in every big turf race around the country. Like you said, Oscar Performance didn't look good, got vanned off after the race. I think reports are that nothing serious was going on with Oscar Performance, which is good news. But for Chad Brown, it was Robert Bruce who came out the winner, followed by the more lightly raced Almanar.
Yeah, they both ran big. Almanar took the lead in late stretch, but you could see to his outside, Robert Bruce, the Chilean import for Chad Brown. Matt, this horse is now 8 for 9. We were there for his only loss on the Manhattan, and it wasn't a bad performance, but 3 races in America now. The Fort Marcy was a strong win, and he beat Spring Quality in that one, who came back and won the Manhattan. And then, of course, this Million, where he was just putting it into another gear late. I think the mantle is a shaky one, maybe, as far as who's the best turf male in the country. But I think right now, it lands to Robert Bruce. Look for him to go back to longer distances as far as the Turf Classic and the Breeders' Cup Turf. But this Chilean horse who's won every race in his career but one looks like a real deal and a potential turf champion.
Yeah, Brian, and I think that it's more of an issue of the fact that we've got some good turf horses in our country, particularly out in the East, and it's not a matter of it's a mediocre bunch and who's going to win this week. American turf racing has gotten pretty darn good.
Better than it has been. Still, maybe ripe for the taking in the Breeders' Cup Turf if some good Euros come over. But Robert Bruce, again, from Chile, making his 3rd start in the United States, his 2nd greatest stakes win, and this, of course, was his biggest stakes win with a really powerful late rush to get up and win the Arlington Million. Matt, speaking of potential Eclipse Award winners, and speaking of the mayor of Chicago, Chad Brown, let's talk about the Beverly D, because I think what Sister Charlie has done this year has also been quite impressive. Matt, 3 Grade 1 wins, 3 different parts of the country: Kentucky, New York, and now Chicago.
Yeah, Brian, and on very different kind of racetracks too. Hard turf, very wet turf, rainy turf. So a super talented horse living up to the billing that we heard about her earlier in the year. And in the Beverly D, Brian, it was Chad Brown 1, 2, and 3 in there. It was Sister Charlie. Again, this time turning the tables and beating her stablemate 4-Star Crook, who ran a very nice race herself. And in 3rd place was the long shot of the Chad Brown's, Theus, who she ran a nice race also, to get third, losing to those very, very good distaffed turfers. The Chad Brown trifecta paid $99 for 50 cents. That's not bad.
Chad Brown. It's Chad Brown's turf world, at least. We're just living in it. Yeah, four-star Crook, the New York bred mare, just keeps running good races. In fact, she's undefeated this year in 4 tries, if not for her stablemate, Sister Charlie. And it's an interesting rivalry, Matt, because they are stablemates, both for Chad Brown. Sister Charlie beat four-star Crook at Keeneland. We saw four-star Crook in the New York Handicap get the jump on Sister Charlie and win the New York Handicap, hold her off there. This time it was the other way around. Sister Charlie made the winning move. Four-star Crook couldn't get quite as close to her as Sister Charlie did in New York. So certainly, and including that Diana win, Sister Charlie is the leader of the division. Four-star Crook continues to run big for trainer Chad Brown. A very good New York bred. Chad Brown, 1, 2, 3, as you say. What else is new?
That's for sure, Brian.
And hey, Matt, the other grade 1 of the day at Arlington Park, Chad Brown got beat. That's news. Although Analyze It now has lost 3 tough decisions in a row. Once again, Analyze It was clear of the rest of the field, just like the last 2. But this time it was a lightly raced Donegal runner named Carrick who actually outdid Analyze It to the wire in a pretty good finish in the Secretariat Stakes.
Yeah, and at a very big price, Brian, for New York trainer Tom Morley, who is a sneaky good trainer, and of course is also known as the husband of paddock talent Maggie Wolfendale from NYRA.
That's right. You're a fan of Maggie Wolfendale. Maggie, if you're watching right now, hello. Hey, Carrick is 3 for 4. So who knows how good Carrick will be. Analyze It needs to go back to the drawing board. He's 6 races in. He's run 3. He's got 3 nice wins and now 3 tough luck losses. I still think he's top notch, but he's in need of a win. That's for sure, Matt. Not so much in need of a win, at least at Saratoga. Linda Rice's Voodoo Song, the son of English Channel. He came to life last summer at Saratoga as a 3-year-old. In fact, he won 4 times at one meet last summer at Saratoga. He's at it again, Matt, and now he's a grade 1 winner.
Yeah, Brian, and really a terrific story, a great story to have as the winner of the 4-star Dave, being that 4-star Dave is one of the most popular horses ever to run at Saratoga, and Voodoo Song is getting to be a fan favorite also, just for that reason that you said, Brian, that last year he won 4 races in one meeting at Saratoga, which is quite an achievement. Had some rest and has come back strong and upset the field in the 4-star Dave. Like we kind of said of the Million, the favorites did not show up in the 4-star Dave. Yoshida maybe didn't like the going or still had a little jet lag. Heart to Heart from California clearly didn't like the very, very wet going and different kind of turf course out here in the East. They were really never a factor in there. Voodoo Song shot out of the gate, took control of the race, had the lead. Coming down the stretch, though, Brian, I think our pick of Delta Prince, I thought we had a winner in there because Delta Prince was moving really strong and looked like he was going to go right by Voodoo Song, but he said no way and dug in down the stretch and got the win.
Yeah, Linda Rice has a good one here in Voodoo Song out of an Unbridled Song mare, the English Channel, 4-year-old now. He's 8-12 lifetime on the turf, Matt. 5 for 5 at Saratoga. Yeah, Delta Prince took a lot of money. Interestingly, Voodoo Song did not, despite Saratoga last year. The race, well, there was 2 races, I guess. The first race was who was going to be on the lead, Voodoo Song or Heart to Heart. And that was really no race at all, as you talked about a little bit. Heart to Heart just backed off of Voodoo Song. And Voodoo Song really had it his own way. Delta Prince, both of our picks to win, I guess went off as the second choice, Matt. I think he was bet a little bit more than we thought. You're right. It looked like he was going to get there at the 8th ball, but Voodoo Song had as he does at Saratoga, had plenty left and really held off Delta Prince nicely in a good finish in the 4-star Dave. Looks like Voodoo Song is the Breeders' Cup Mile kind of horse now, Matt. Unfortunately, it won't be at Saratoga.
That's for sure.
Speaking of Breeders' Cup kind of horses, Matt, the buzz is only growing for the $1.2 million purchase out in California. Jerry Hollendorfer has another good one. We're talking about the 2-year-old Instagrand, son of Into Mischief. As I said, a $1.2 million purchase who absolutely ran off the TV screen at Los Alamitos in his debut. He came back in the best pal, Matt. It was a short field. He was 1-10, but I think he looked even better than most people hoped.
Yeah, he was 1-10, and he ended up winning by 10 lengths. It was no contest. A terrifically impressive performance for the Hall of Fame trainer. Earned a 92 Beyer speed figure, which is quite a nice number for a 2-year-old at this point. Derby buzz has begun. Silly kinds of things like Derby future odds available in Las Vegas for like 15-1, 25-1 when we're a long way from the Kentucky Derby, but it's always fun to get excited about a promising 2-year-old.
Yeah, why not get excited about this one? Now, we will say that Instagrand has only run twice, 5 furlongs at Los Alamitos, 6 furlongs at Del Mar. So 2 turns is still very foreign to him. But I'll tell you what, the way he looks down the stretch in these races, you certainly could see him going farther than these sprint distances. Instagrand, there's a few out there, but right now Instagrand is the most talked about 2-year-old in the country. Hey, Matt, let's keep things out there on the West Coast, just north of San Diego. Beautiful Del Mar, where the turf meets the surf. It's their signature race of the meeting, Matt. The Pacific Classic has hosted a lot of good horses in its history. And this year it's got an interesting field. I think the West Coast leader of the handicap division is in there. And if he gets beat, maybe we'll come out of there. I'm talking about Accelerate. Pavel's coming off a big win at Churchill Downs. Not a great Pacific Classic by any means, but one we need to talk about a little bit. And Accelerate, the son of Looking at Lucky, is going through a unique triple in that he's already won the Big Cap, Santa Anita Handicap, and the Gold Cup, formerly of Hollywood Park, now of Santa Anita. Now he goes for the Pacific Classic.
Yeah, Brian, everything seems to be pointing to Accelerate here in the Pacific Classic, along with the resume that you just talked about. Is the fact that Accelerate loves Del Mar. He's got a fantastic record out there. His running style, sitting, off the pace, stalking, seems to fit really well in the Pacific Classic. There's enough speed in there to set up that move. For Accelerate, I will admit, Brian, I am a little bit concerned about the fact that Accelerate hasn't run since May. It's getting close to 3 months. He was originally going to run sooner than the Pacific Classic, so I don't know if there's a story to go with that, but it puts some question marks in my mind. But clearly, Accelerate is the horse to beat.
Matt, I remember you saying the same thing last year about Stellar Wind for the same connections. John Sadler, Ronis Racing. Eventually, that caught up with Stellar Wind as she failed late in the season in the Breeders' Cup, but up until then, she ran well. It seems to be their MO. They're really good horses. They kind of spread out their racing. We'll see. I think he's strictly the one to beat in here. As you say, he's got a very good history at Del Mar. He seems to really love the main track at Del Mar. Huge win in the San Diego last year, and then a solid third in the Pacific Classic last year. A tougher Pacific Classic last year. Now he faces a field that it could have looked a little bit more interesting. There was some buzz. Maybe his stablemate, his lightly raced, impressive stablemate, Catalina Cruiser, would make it in after all. But they decided to keep those two horses separate. And maybe even more interesting would have been the champion mare, Unique Bella. Jerry Hollendorfer threw it out there that she was nominated for the race. So there was a shot that she would end up in the Pacific Classic. Neither showed up. I think that makes Pavel a clear second choice, Matt. We've known about Pavel since his maiden win. They threw him to the wolves early in his career. He ran some very good races, had some bad luck, went on a losing streak. But last time at Churchill Downs, it was a muggy hot night at Churchill Downs. But in the Stephen Foster, he was much the best.
He certainly was. Finally got a Grade 1 win in there. Certainly it was not the strongest Grade 1. It was not the kind of Grade 1 quality that he had been running in earlier when he went on that losing streak. Everything went his way in there, and Pavel looked really good in the Stephen Foster for his victory. Again, for me, I still have question marks about Pavel, and that certainly has to do with the quality of the field. Like you said, Brian, this isn't the strongest Pacific Classic in here, but there is Accelerate in the race, and Pavel has yet to beat a kind of horse of Accelerate's quality. And maybe Pavel's turned the corner, and we're ready to see the best from him. But for me, in the Pacific Classic, the top two favorites have some serious question marks.
Fair enough. Maybe there's a long shot in there for you, Matt. For me, Accelerate is the one to beat. And Pavel, yeah, there's a chance that maybe he has finally put it all together. Like I said, he was thrown into some very deep waters early in his career, and he struggled just a little bit. But now coming off the Grade 1 win at Churchill Downs, maybe that confidence builder builds as he gets back to California for the Pacific Classic. Another try at Accelerate. Those are the top two favorites, Matt. I'm going to throw in a horse I think who could rally up into the picture, because I think the Lieutenant, I like his last two races. He's a rallying type, and I think 1.25 miles, the son of Street Sense, getting better, should like the distance. There's a reasonable amount of speed in here. So I think the Lieutenant might run a very good race to get into the picture, maybe double-digit odds. And then we need to mention the Baffert Import, the South American horse, who I fully expect to be the third choice in here, Roman Rosso. Bob Baffert brings him in his first race in America, although a Group 1 winner in two countries, Argentina, and then he went over to Uruguay to win a Group 1 as well.
Those Group 1s in Uruguay, you have to watch out for them, Brian. But I'm agreeing with you here, Brian. My pick in the Pacific Classic is the Lieutenant. I'm going to take a shot in here. I think the odds are there. Trainer Mike McCarthy knows how to get a horse ready. The Lieutenant, we saw him run second to Diversify in the Suburban, which is a good entry in his resume. I think he's going to get a good setup. Again, if Accelerate is at his best, I don't think he's going to get beat. But, hey, I'm going to take a shot with the Lieutenant.
Very good. Okay, so we're on the same we're calling him a long shot. I don't know if he's 8-1 or 9-1 or 10-1, somewhere in that range. I certainly see him as about the fifth choice in here. So should get some odds. I think Accelerate's the one to beat, so Accelerate over the Lieutenant for me. Matt goes to the long shot with the Lieutenant. We'll have to wait and see. Now, Uruguay, Matt, we laugh, but of course there was a horse a little over a decade ago named Invisor who did pretty well coming from Uruguay. So you never know, although Roman Rosso is really an Argentinian horse at heart. Okay, so that's the Pacific Classic. Let's talk Alabama next. Horse Center takes you coast to coast. We're going to go from Del Mar, Matt, Southern California, to northern upstate New York, Saratoga Springs, of course, the Spa, and it's the biggest three-year-old filly race of the year up there, Matt. It's the Alabama, another race with great history and prestige. 1.25 miles on the main track. Monomoy Girl, the really outstanding division leader, is waiting for the riches at Parks, and Wonder Gadot, the Canadian-bred superstar filly, she'll be running against the boys in the Travers. We don't know if that's going to turn out to be a good decision or not, but still, we have an interesting Alabama led by Midnight Bisou, the daughter of Midnight Lute, now in the Steve Asmussen barn. Big winner of the Mother Goose since she joined the barn, but last time she was clearly second behind Monomoy Girl in the Coaching Club American Oaks.
That's for sure, Brian. I think the storyline in the Alabama is two-pronged. It's the fact that the division leaders aren't there. You mentioned Monomoy Girl, Wonder Gadot, Red Ruby came up with a minor injury and is out of training for now. So a lot of horses in the field who have been running behind those division leaders get a little bit of class relief in here, which their owners and trainers are probably happy about. Maybe the racing fans not as happy, and then there's the fact that it's a 10 furlong race and the horses in here don't have experience going that distance. So when you're handicapping, we certainly have to think about who's going to be running strongest at the end of the race. And I guess at the top of the list has to be Midnight Bisou. I think out of the field, for me, there's not much question that she can probably handle the 10 furlongs. And without Monomoy Girl to chase or Wonder Gadot in there, she's going to be a deserving favorite in the race.
Absolutely, Matt. She'll be a clear favorite. Midnight Bisou, look, she's won 4 graded stakes in really impressive fashion this year in 6 tries. The other 2, she ran into Monomoy Girl. So Midnight Bisou on paper looks like the horse to beat by a clear margin in here, Matt. She's had a terrific year. Having said that, I don't like her at 1.25 miles. I don't think 1.25 miles is her cup of tea, the daughter of Midnight Lute. I think she's better rallying at shorter distances, 7 furlongs, a mile, maybe up to 9 furlongs. But at 1.25 miles over this Saratoga track, now just on class, she could end up winning this, but I don't think 1.25 miles is what she really wants. And I'll tell you what, the second choice, I don't know how low these two are going to be. Maybe Midnight Bisou is 6-5, and Talk Boop to me is only 5-2. I'm hoping for a little bit better, but Talk Boop to me, and this kind of emphasizes how strong this division is, because you mentioned Monomoy Girl, Wonder Gadot, and Red Ruby not being here, but Talk Boop to me is for real, folks. Talk Boop to me is very good for trainer Rodolphe Brissett. She won the Indiana Oaks of all things last time, but really big performance there at her first time around 2 turns. She's a granddaughter of Medaglia d'Oro out of the young sire Violence. Talk Boop to me looked really good getting that second turn, and I think she'll be ahead of Midnight Bisou early. And if I'm right, Midnight Bisou doesn't really want 10 furlongs. Midnight Bisou will never get by Talk Boop to me in here. Talk Boop to me showed some class early on when she won her maiden by 11 lengths, went right into tough horses. Mia Mischief at Churchill Downs, one of the fastest filly sprinters in the country. She ran second there, a good second there. And then second to Monomoy Girl, where she really wasn't giving up much down the stretch. So it's all Talk Boop to me in here, Matt, as a clear second choice, but my clear pick to upset the favorite.
Yeah, we could certainly say that Talk Verve to me is the horse in here that is improving and has room to improve further. Talk Verve to me, like you said, Brian, has never finished worse than second in her career, which is only 6 races. Looks like the race sets up well for this horse. And there are some others in the field that we should also mention. There's She's a Julie, who won the Iowa Oaks for Steve Asmussen. Also a lightly raced horse who has room to improve, and Asmussen's horses have been running really well. Also in the field is Coach Rocks, another horse that flashed some talent earlier in the year, breaking her maiden at Gulfstream and then winning the Gulfstream Oaks. And then she started to run into the big hitters in the 3-year-old division. She ran second to Red Ruby the last 2 times, and I'm sure trainer Dale Romans is welcoming a little bit of class relief in here, but I don't know if she's as good as the top 2 in there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's any class relief either, Matt, when you're talking Midnight Bassoon and Talk Blue to me. Yeah, She's a Jewel is very interesting to me, actually. Steve Asmussen, she wasn't as good earlier in the year, but she's really turned it around. She had some nice races at Churchill Downs, some tough battles in a couple of allowance races at Churchill Downs, which are better than they look on paper. Then she went out to Iowa, and she won pretty much for fun in the Iowa Oaks there. Big jump in class for She's a Julie, but her last 3 races tell me that she's very improved. And if I'm right about her stablemate not really wanting a 1.25 miles and saying at the top of the stretch that, no, I'm not going to be able to touch Talk Blue in this one, She's a Julie, the lesser Asmussen entry, could be the one that picks up the pieces for second. Coach Rock's really no match the last 2. I imagine she'll run her race, but I don't know if it's good enough to get in the top 2. Red Ruby really was much better than her recently. Eskimo Kisses, she was second in the Ashland. She's got a good closing kick, 4th in the Kentucky Oaks. She got a prep race. It wasn't a great prep race last time in the Coaching Club American Oaks, but she certainly could pick up some pieces at 1.25 miles. So I think she makes some sense to use underneath in the exotics as well. But, Matt, I'm all about talking Booth this week.
Yeah, Brian, and that's hard to argue with. And if in fact you're right that Midnight Bassoon doesn't like the distance, a Talk Verve, She's a Julie exacta could pay nicely with a heavy favorite running out.
All right, folks, that's our preview of the Pacific Classic and the Alabama. Should be another great weekend of racing on opposite coasts. As always, I want to thank our sponsor, the best contest site out there, Derby Wars. If you haven't played with them before, check them out, please. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel right here on Horse Racing Nation. Matt, let's talk some Derby Day racing. You ready to do that?
I am, Brian. And, earlier I had a note in my mind, but I forgot about it earlier when we were talking about the Pacific Classic and we were talking about Accelerate. Of course, Accelerate is by the sire Looking at Lucky, who is the same sire as our filly Sooner Schooner. And actually, if you go even back into their female families, our Sooner Schooner is very similar to Accelerate. So we're excited to see the Pacific Classic, and we're very excited about our filly and the way she has been getting ready for the races. You saw her have her second work recently, right, Brian?
Absolutely, Matt. She's looking good at Churchill Downs. The Pacific Classic not only has Accelerate, as Matt said, very similar breeding, same sire, but some similar breeding on the female side. Also, Dr. Door is in that race, in with a shot in the Pacific Classic, another son of Looking at Lucky. We like Looking at Lucky, and we like our Sooner Schooner. I've been saying it now for a few weeks. I think we are getting closer to adding our second horse to that partnership, so please do check us out here at Derby Day Racing. Matt, as we leave you, I want to get a parting shot. From you first.
And my usual, I always want to thank our producer, Brett Workman, for putting together the show.
Thanks to Brett. Thank you for watching. And now, as we leave you here on Horse Center, let's go back to, the 4th race from Gulfstream Park on Friday. Gunnevera returned his first race since the Dubai World Cup. Only his 3rd race of the year, Matt. Pegasus World Cup, the Dubai World Cup, and now this allowance race at Gulfstream Park. We'll see you next week. Let's watch Gunnevera do his thing.
At the post. And they're off. From the outside, it's Astruc who gets the first call. Moving up on his outside is Millionaire Runner to go after the early lead. Down at the inside, Letone comes away racing in third. Unbridled Holiday is situated fourth early, and Edgard Zayas allows Gunnevera to settle into stride at the back of the field, but he's only 4.5 lengths off the lead of Astruc. It's Astruc and Jeffrey Sanchez in front 3/4 of a length. Millionaire Runner on the outside second. Letone in his North American debut is racing from third. Back to fourth and Unbridled Holiday, and Gunnevera is last. They roll into the backstretch now after completing a quarter in 24-2. With the advantage, it's now Astruc by a head. On the outside, Millionaire Runner is second. Letone is back to third. Unbridled Holiday watching the action unfold while 2.5 lengths off the lead in fourth. And Gunnevera is last of the five. He's in the clear and 3.5 lengths off the lead as they race to the first finish line. Millionaire Runner up on the outside of Astruc to take the lead, and Millionaire Runner moves away 3/4 of a length. Gunnevera's given him more rein now. He's drawn closer. He's only 2 lengths off the lead. He is a bit wide while racing in fourth. Letone still in the hunt from third. Back to last is Unbridled Holiday as they round the far turn. To the first finish line they go with Millionaire Runner trying to spring the upset. Leads the way 3/4 of a length. Zayas gets serious on Gunnevera, and there he goes now. And Gunnevera in a blink of an eye right to the front. Letone back to second. Millionaire Runner is third, and this one's over. At the top of the stretch, it's the very classy Gunnevera who brings his cards to the table and has a winning hand. He's running up the score inside the final 16th of a mile. After this performance, he's got a trip to the spa. Gunnevera, easily. Letone was second. Third, Millionaire